All right, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Average Superstar TV. I am your host, Lauren Lepre. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Please hit the subscribe, smash that notification button. Feel free to comment. So this round, I'm really glad to have this special guest. This is one of my fellow brothers from the Pennsylvania hardcore scene, Ryan Ziegler.
What's up,
I'd like
everybody?
to welcome to the show. And yes, he's known in bands like Animalhaus and Doing Great and Barricade, and an all-around good guy. But he also has, we're going to get into all that, but he has one interesting story. And this is a real topic that is like hits home with me. And I think a lot of like you out there, I think my audience here will really appreciate myth versus facts versus just one story. I think that needs to be told. We'll say before we start here, for this guy's character, in 2013, I started the Pennsylvania hardcore documentary, and myself, Mark DeVito, we started this, and we were funding this all out of pocket. And I'm doing my first film here, and all of a sudden you start like realizing you're a little in over your head, not as far as I can't handle this, but money. And out of the blue, this guy throws a benefit show for me. Just out of the blue, like I think Dave Heck was the one that first told me about it, and not even you. Like, yo, I think he's doing a show for you. I was like, for real? That'd be amazing. So he did. I was forever grateful for that, and just letting everybody know up front, this dude's amazing. I heart this guy. And I guess right off bat, we can maybe run right into the story. Do I know some areas of this story? Yes, but I'd rather get it right from the man that lived it. All I could say to start it off with is it had something to do with our Philadelphia Flyers, right?
Yeah, we were in 2009. Well, even before that, through the hardcore scene. Hang on one second. I'm sitting next to this acoustic guitar, and now I hear it vibrating.
Understood.
Being weird. In 2009, and even before that, a bunch of us from the scene and from without the scene were heavily attending different Philadelphia sporting events as like large groups. And this was no different. We had done several Flyers games all over the place. We'd been, up to see the Islanders on bus trips and, down to RFK Stadium to see the Phillies and the Nationals. And we had done all this several times. It was always a really good time, Joe Benson, another Philadelphia hardcore scene, guy.
Great dude.
These trips on, and they were phenomenal. And this was another one of these trips. We went on this bus trip to see the Flyers and the Devils play, and did not realize that day that the entire course of my life was going to change forever. And put me into some of the hardest times of my life, which subsequently led to some of the best times of my life. But that's the short end. But so we're on this trip. And I'm going to be clear up front. I do not mind at all speaking on this topic. But one thing I try not to do at all is mince words and war story and all that. What I like to do is tell the facts to get to what matters. So, and the facts can only be, unfortunately, at this point anyway, from my side of the fence. And I always put that out there because, everybody likes to tell their own tale, and I can only tell mine. So we're on this bus trip. We're drinking heavy, partying, hanging on, hanging out, going out hard with everybody. And we go down, we have the Flyers game. We're at the Flyers game.
And this is the Meadowlands, right?
We were at,
Wasn't the Devils? No.
It was the Devils, but is that the Meadowlands?
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I might have been drunk. We'll get to that part of the story too. No, I was definitely drunk. So we're at the Flyers game. I'm there with a bunch of buddies, including the guitarist of one of my favorite hardcore bands, Mushmouth, Chris Mahmood.
Great guy.
Amazing. One of my brothers. So me and him were there, and I'm over here. This group of guys talking heavy. They were with us, but not like friends of ours. But I remember them from the
So
bus.
for like anybody not familiar with the hardcore scene, we're guessing here that Joe Benzon allowed other people to jump onto this bus trip.
Anybody that wanted to go, So
do you know if this was like a personal friend of his at all, or is it just somebody?
No, just people that
basically seat fillers.
Yeah, throughout the years, these bus trips grew exponentially. This one in particular was 3 buses.
Okay. Oh, okay.
3 bus loads, so it had grown beyond like our initial small group of friends that it started out in, which was fine at the time.
Sure.
At least we thought. So all I know is I come upon this situation where these guys are talking about beating up an N-word, and this catches my ear. I'm like, what the hell are these guys talking about? Like, they were with us. So I kind of just hover around the conversation, and I deduced pretty quickly that they're referring to Mahmoud, who's not black, but also not white.
Yes.
And I'm not having it. So I kind of
just to hold up for 1 sec. Is this during the game? Before
the game? We're in like period 2, maybe.
Okay, so this is not in the way home yet. Okay.
This is not on the way home. This is like the beginning of it. So we're in like period 2. Apparently, I found out years later that something had happened in the stands with these guys and Mahmoud, and I still don't honestly know what the whole thing of it was. It said something to do with some girl that was also on the bus trip puking that had nothing to do with any of us, but somehow it became Mahmoud's problem. Anyway, I come upon this conversation. I'm not having it. And I just kind of like, yo, fellas, like, knock your shit off. You're not going to do nothing. Like, fall back kind of deal. Like, you're definitely not using that kind of language. To which one of the guys says it again. And this is where I've got to own my bullshit, right? Because, a lot of times, people get on my story about how, Ziggy, was an innocent guy and all this. And we'll get into that. But this is what I have to own my own bullshit. Whereas this guy said the N-word again, and I punched him square in the face.
Okay.
So I quickly get ejected by security. I'm outside. A couple of these guys come out, and by myself, they jump me. They tune me up a little bit. Nothing too bad. I definitely got beat up, if I'm being honest. Like, never got knocked to the ground or nothing, but they banged me in the head.
So the update, you guys got in a fight during the game.
Mm-hmm.
You're both ejected.
Yeah, no, just I was ejected.
And they just said, screw it, let's go get him outside.
Exactly. So they come out a few minutes later and tune me up a little bit. So then we got to get back on the bus with these guys. And we quickly realized, like, oh shit, there's a whole lot of them. And there wasn't a whole lot of us. Maybe 4 or 5 of us and double digits of them. And they're on the bus just talking about how they're going to fucking go for round 2, getting the N-word and me again when we get back to Philly. It's getting way out of hand, but, the alcohol's flowing and it's bad. So we get back to Philly, or as we're on our way back to Philly, people are calling people, people are getting involved that had no business even being involved in the first place. It's getting crazy. Now, mind you, I'm half drunk. Well, I'm fully drunk, and I'm half beat the fuck up. So I'm just like, let's sit on the bus. Like, God damn it, I just want to go home at this point. But it's getting hype. So we get back to Philly. There's a mess of people waiting in the parking lot where the buses picked us up and dropped us off. They had called down the thunder. We had called down the thunder. There was no getting out of this situation clean. It was going to be bad. So we're on the bus. Some people came on the bus. I get off the bus. As I'm getting off the bus, boom, people start brawling like crazy. Again, owning my bullshit. I did get in a tangle with a pretty big dude. And I was mixed up with him pretty good. We're fighting. We're giving blows back and forth. Another guy gets involved. So now it's like a 2-on-1 situation. But we're, handling ourselves accordingly as best we can. Cops start pulling in from everywhere. Cops everywhere. So we bail. I was getting in my buddy Schwank's car, who was driving. We peel out. As we peel out, more and more and more cops are coming in. And that's when we start getting texts and phone calls from people that somebody had been stabbed. And we're like, oh, fuck. Like, that's crazy. Like, this is way getting at, like, it was already out of hand.
It is out of hand at this point. Yeah.
Now it's out of control. And what's crazy to me is, growing up in the hardcore scene, obviously I was not shocked by a fist fight.
Not at all.
It's what it was. I mean, I started going to shows in the late 90s and early 2000s, and it was still pretty hard back then.
Mm-hmm.
So that was not unusual, but to get to that level seemed like, wow, that was crazy. That was excessive. So the next morning.
So you're not. So let's just stop right there. You're not there when this person gets stabbed.
No. So I was. I just didn't see what was going on.
Okay.
And you play the tape back in your head a million times, and I do have a recollection of somebody falling and girls screaming as we were like running away.
Gotcha.
But I was, it was melee at this point. I mean, even in the trial, they were estimating like 50 combatants.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was nuts. So we're in the car, we're driving home. Texts are coming in from everywhere, friends, acquaintances. Oh man, two people might have got stabbed, and we think Gavlik, our mutual friend, got arrested. We're like, oh fuck, like this is nuts. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do at this point besides just retreat and go home? And I'm thinking, man, like, we're lucky we got out of there, So the next morning I wake up, I'm fucked up. I have been punched more times in that evening than I've probably been punched in my adult life, I'm all beat up. I'm just like thankful that it's over. And I wake up to a fucking voicemail from a Philadelphia detective, like how they got my number. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? They're like, yeah, we want to talk to you. So I'm like, why do they want to talk to me? You know what I mean? Like this is, and how do they even know I was there? A million questions are going through my head. And, I'll be honest, and this is part of the story I like to get into too for people. I was very, very naive to the justice system, and being the kind of
throw my hand in here for a second. We've all kind of been involved with stuff and kind of what partakes at hardcore shows. I did think we were on a used to always kind of getting away with it. Like what's going to happen? Like, so
say what you will about the old hardcore scene. Shit happened. Nobody talked. Everybody walked.
Yes. There was no cameras or none of that. Yeah.
So I am way out of my league now. I don't know what to do. And actually my sister, God bless her, because I was going to just call the cops and be like, what the fuck do you want? Like, and she's like, what are you? Don't do that. Like, that's the worst thing you can do. And thankfully she's better educated than me. And I ended up just like contacting like this family lawyer that I have for like small business stuff and things of that nature. And he's like, holy fuck, this is like way out of my league, but you're not, calling and cooperating. So a few days go by, we're figuring all this out. We come to find out that they're looking for me for the stabbing of not one, but two people. I'm like, how the fuck did this get here? And I'm floored. But again, so naive to the justice system. I'm like, I'll lawyer up. I'll fucking, tell them my story, and they have to believe me, right? Because it's the truth. And the lawyer's like, yeah, dummy, you're not going to do that. So I end up paying this like overpriced fucking douchebag in a fucking nice suit and a high rise in Philly to be my first attorney. Again, if you learn anything from my story, you have to play their game on every level, including your own attorney. I was fooled by my first attorney. He was a joke. I mean, he cost a small fucking fortune. So I figured, and he had a good reputation and a corner office in the 17th Arch Street Tower. I'm thinking I got the guy, right? No, I didn't have the fucking guy. We'll get into that. So now I find out that me and Mahmood are wanted for the stabbings. We both end up, on lawyer recommendations, turning ourselves in, and we're just going to let the court play this out. How can they get us for the stabbings? I mean, there's a million witnesses. We were praying for cameras. You know what I mean? We were
Yeah.
like, there's got to be cameras in the parking lot or cameras on the buses. You know, we will get through this. It's not going to be easy, but we'll get through this. Like, justice will prevail. We're going to be all right. So we turn ourselves in. That was my first experience getting locked up. You know, we spent like 18 hours in a holding cell in Northeast Detectives, and then got transferred to fucking CFCF, which is like Phillies County Jail. And it's a wild fucking place.
Did you get your cheese sandwich? Is that what they fed you in there?
Yeah, cheese sandwich, bro. Cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
Got a cheese sandwich for 24 hours. I think I had one cheese sandwich and a quart of iced tea. Not even a quart, like a pint of iced tea. So that sucked. My family bailed me out, and I was out. And now that was the plan. Got out like a day later, which was the plan, and we were going to fight this thing in the legal system. We start gathering up. Now, here's where I'll kind of stretch out the details a little bit because, or compact it, I guess is the right way. Philadelphia justice system in particular, of all justice systems, is wild. Wild in the sense that it doesn't have to obey anything but itself.
It's its own ecosystem, basically.
It's its own ecosystem. I've learned through the hard way that it even supersedes Pennsylvania state law.
Wow.
Like case law and everything. They can literally do whatever the fuck they want. It's wild. So I am now in the meat grinder of the Philadelphia court system. This is still 2009, mind you.
Wow.
My trial did not take place until 2016. 7 years later.
Yeah, talk about
it was 6 years and change, but like almost 7 years.
Wow.
So through this time, and now mind you, I did not know it was going to take place 6+ years later. I never knew. For me, it was always going to be 3 months out, 6 months out, 2 weeks out. I think the longest continuance we ever got might have been a year. And that's when they reopened an investigation around 2014, which went nowhere because they didn't actually do it. So I lived in a perpetual cycle of thinking I was going to go to trial every few months for 6 years.
Yeah, talk about sweating bullets, man.
Oh, man, I spiraled. I spiraled. I never knew, and I was cold to mental health issues prior to this. You know, I was that suck it up buttercup. Depression isn't real. Anxiety isn't real. It's all in your head. You know, you're just a baby kind of guy because I had never experienced life. You know, I had no respect for that. And now I was learning the hard way. I learned real quick what depression was, and I learned real quick what anxiety was, because I don't know an anxiety worse than, let me put this out there. When my charges finally came through several months later, they upped them. I had a preliminary trial in 2010 or 11, where they upped my charges from aggravated assault to attempted murder, 2 attempted murders. And facing, you know, what seemed like an impossible amount of time if you're convicted for even aggravated assault, let alone attempted murder.
Was that just towards you, or is that towards Mood too?
Mood got 1 count of everything. I got 2 counts of.
So you're the main one they're going after.
No, I mean, they were equally going after his throat. I mean, what's crazy about this whole story is, and I encourage people, you can request the court records for this stuff and read it. I mean, it reads like a novel. I mean, the one victim, and I'm doing air quotes here because he was a victim of a crime. I'm just not his perpetrator. That's a whole different story. But the one victim tried to claim that Mahmoud and I stabbed him simultaneously, which is ludicrous if you've ever been in a mega brawl situation.
I don't think Dr. Emmett Brown could have timed that the right way.
Exactly. You know, it was wild hearing this guy's testimony. The fact that it was even considered valid is beyond me. But he was saying that we stabbed him simultaneously, which is crazy. So I had a second victim, air quotes, and Mahmoud had one, and our one was also the same. So, so he was facing everything I was, just one count of everything. And they were equally coming at his throat. Honestly, for a while, it seemed like they were pressing him harder. And now looking back on it, they were probably just trying to see if he would like turn on me or something. Because that's how they love to solve cases, is just have people
roll over
and make up stories.
Yeah.
So of course Mahmoud didn't do that. He's a fucking ace of a human being. So he stood toe to toe with, or back to back with me, really, for 6 years and fought this like a fucking true brother. So facing this insurmountable amount of time, learning about anxiety. That's what we were talking about. So I'm facing double attempted murder for, at the time, I couldn't even comprehend any wrong in the situation because, at the time I lived a life where, if you called somebody the N-word and raised your hands in aggression, I had full reign to punch you in the face. So like the dudes I did fight that night, I didn't even consider it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm full on victiming myself in this. Like I'm being put through the meat grinder. These guys are making up all these accusations. I don't even know. At this point, the first time I had laid eyes on the stabbing victims was at the preliminary trial. They walked in. They were standing like 3 feet from me in the trial. And I'm like, I didn't even know it was them. And then the trial started. I'm like, they sat down on like the prosecutor's side. I was like, those are the fucking guys. I don't even remember them being there.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. And then they're taking the stand, like pointing me out. And you're like, dude, were you even on the bus? Like, I don't know you, dude.
Yeah.
So I learned real quick what anxiety was, facing all that, and definitely now very much like bang the drum for people in mental health trying to get right, because it's not a way to live in those states. So I'm perpetually living in these states. I was a partier prior to all this going down, and I was becoming a full-on alcoholic and addict, self-medicating, regulating, trying to deal with all this over the 6 years. So that got more insane. So that brings us to, let's just fast forward, because all those years, and even though great shit was happening in my life, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I shouldn't skip over that. When this happened in 2009, like my band Barricade was really coming to an end. My band Animalhaus was starting out. Animalhaus was lightning in a bottle, this wonderful musical endeavor.
My favorite band to turn of the century, dude. I'm not just saying that because you're here. It was my favorite band to turn of the century.
I hear that from people all the time, and I'm obviously always flattered, but I get it. Like, not even just being cocky, like, oh, I was in the band, but like, John Barlow gave us like one phenomenal record to remember him by.
Good God, yeah.
I got to fucking play a little bass on it.
You'll see when Carl Strength for a Reason's when his episode drops. We were both talking like he had more chapters to be written. Like
I mean that's a whole
amazing
tragedy in my life and everybody's life that he touched, because he had more to give, man. He was wild. And the worst part was, you can't deny that John's spiral was at the same time as my spiral. It could have been, it could have been me. It probably should have been me. No, we were too. That band was too reckless. But that's another story for another day. But like, so I'm making this wonderful music. I got married in 2014. I had a child.
The radical house too.
We had the Animalhaus, which was like the coolest fucking house in the world.
Yeah, I remember being there when you guys were just putting on like kind of a show, practicing with like 15, 20 of us. Like, it was great.
Every Animalhaus practice was a show.
Uh-huh.
The house was always full. I'd make dinner and there'd just be like random people there. It was a wonderful.
Yeah, you shot the music video there, so yeah.
So like, I had a daughter during this time. Like, don't get me wrong, like I was depressed. I was spiraling in my use.
But you had love all around you.
But I had love.
Tons of love around you.
And we'll get to that, because that's one of the killer parts of this story. So like, I'm simultaneously trying to live out what a lot of people say are the best years of your life. This is my early, mid, and late 20s while all this is going on. Right up until, the trial happens, 2016. it finally, the day finally comes. And I remember, man, like talking to Chris Mahmood and being like, bro, we're here. It's gotta fucking work out, dude. Like it just, we've been through too much. We're doing too much good. You know, Mood had an amazing family. I had an amazing family. Like we didn't have fucking.
I mean, you know the stuff that someone like me would hear, like it was more of praise because like I knew when he was calling Chris the N-word and stuff, I knew like I heard in court like the judge and they weren't liking all that.
No, they were hating.
Literally, I was like, yeah, see, they dug themselves in the hole. And I was just kind of thinking, you know, like it's a little like I thought like naive, kind of like you, like everybody was guilty. You get what you deserve. Everybody go their separate ways, and that's the end of it. Is kind of what I thought. Maybe some fines for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I was with you right there, man. I was like, how could this be anything? And I was at a point where I was like, if the victims, my victims, if the two people, three, if you want to get technical, but if like, because I still don't think that the dude I punched for saying the N-word was a victim. But if you want to talk about the two people I fought in the brawl, right, came forward, I would have ate simple assault charges for them in a heartbeat because I did it.
Yeah.
I willingly jumped off that bus. The fight broke out, and I went, here it is. Let's get in the mix.
Yeah.
And I did that. And I was ready to own my bullshit because I had grown. I was no longer a 24-year-old child at this point. You know, I was approaching 30. I think I might have even been 30.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, I'm ready to move on with my life. You know what I mean? Like, let's get this behind us.
Out of the way. You know, whatever happens.
I'm not going to go down for this stabbing. Like, this is insanity. Yeah. The world doesn't work like this. So I'm like, dude, we're here. I remember Mood was like, probably doesn't want me to say this, but like, he was like a lot more depressed than me. Like, he was like more nervous, where I was like real confident, like, fuck this. Like, it can't go wrong. Like, this is America, right? We're going to be fine. Naive as a motherfucker. Trial happens. We come to find out that some of the dudes that I physically fought were off-duty Philadelphia police officers. One of the dudes that Gavlik physically fought, that he Noel processed out, was an off-duty Philadelphia cop and the brother of one of the stabbing victims, the supposed double stabber. And we're like, oh shit, this changes things. So
it changes things, but it also shows terrible character because they shouldn't have. You know what I mean? They should have known, but they should have been de-escalating that thing.
100%. No one on my children ever announced they were a police officer.
Yeah.
That would have changed everything.
Yes, it would have.
You know, like they would have still been assholes for being racist pieces of shit.
And if you ever got that on video and brought that down to the precinct, well, you know.
Right? So we're like, it's here, but this is a wrench in the works. Like, fuck.
So that was what's the stop? That was the trump card they were waiting to tell at the end.
Pretty much, dude.
The entire time.
These guys came in their press uniforms. Well, I should say all of them came in their press uniforms, but one, because one was a police officer at the time and removed for aggravated assault. Go figure.
Yeah.
But still, you want to take a stand in this country? A police officer is assumed to be telling the truth at all times.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's looked at you guys as the punk rockers.
But
they also looked at you as the punk rockers, you know, like who are you guys?
At one point, dude, the judge made me get up out of the witness stand, take off my coat, and roll up my sleeves and show that I'm covered in tattoos.
Oh, yeah.
In the trial. So we're in this trial. There is physical evidence. There's no knife. There's no fingerprints. There is no DNA. It's not CSI. It's not the movies. Perry Mason doesn't come through and find the fucking golden ticket or whatever it's going to be, trump card of evidence. No cameras. My defense team sought cameras from everything for years. We could find nothing. No video, no pictures, nothing. So it's a he said, she said, and they had badges on their side. Shit. Right? Yeah. Shit. So I still think that, you know, there's a chance. I remain this like optimistic, positive guy throughout. And 3-day trial. Third day comes around. We're getting ready to read the verdicts. Now, I left this part out. This is important because people need to learn. People need to learn. Through my bad counsel, and I had terrible counsel, I was coerced through my counsel to take a bench trial. And what a bench trial is when you waive your right to a jury and have a judge just judge the case. Now, I was told by my attorney that this was the way to go, because if we went to a jury trial, we were going to have this horrible judge that was mean and nasty and gave away huge, big sentences. And it was going to be, my kids are busted in here. Gave away big, mean, nasty sentences. And we did not want to go up against this judge. This judge was we got to stay away from that. There goes my baby.
Hey.
So we're like, we don't want that. So we're going to take this bench trial. We're going to get this really favorable judge. And in the grand scheme of things, all things considered, I have to say he's a pretty damn good judge, because now knowing what I know about the legal system and how everything works, and I'm not really shocked how things went down. And do you want to just like hit pause real quick? She's changing the diaper. It turns out that, you know, he is a pretty good judge based on what I know of the legal system now. And you'll see why I say that in a minute. But so I'm taking this bench trial, which I would argue no one should ever do, even if you're going against what is considered a horrible judge, because at the end of the day, yeah, the judge may control your sentencing, but I don't believe in my heart that average citizens would have listened to this story and it made any sense to them. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like the police have credibility, but like maybe there would have been a few people on that jury that would have been like, you know, maybe all cops don't always tell the truth. You know what I mean?
And drop the M word.
Yeah, and drop the M word in a Philadelphia court. Let's be honest. You know, like it might not go over so well. So, lesson learned. You know what I mean? This one of many from this whole saga. So I 3-day trial, like I said, comes down to sentencing. Reading the verdict. I'm still super confident. You know, I stand up and I remember like.
They interject here. So when you're about to read, you're at the reading the verdict. This is you and Ahmoud together.
Together, we were our trials were together. Like we said, we fought this thing back to back, man. Like, you know, he's an ace. So we stand up, but dude, in walk all these Philadelphia sheriffs, man. They got the chains with them. You literally hear the chains coming down. Like the room fills up with freaking cops and sheriffs, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I remember like literally hearing a crack in my ear and a ringing. Like it was surreal. And the judge started reading the verdict. He started with Chris. You know, and he's like, you know, Christopher Mahmood, in the city of Philadelphia, on the account of, you know, attempted murder, finds you not guilty. On the account of aggravated assault, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty down the line of all these charges. But I'm still standing there just like shocked. Like I knew something was wrong. They come to me just on the count of attempted murder, not guilty. On the second count of attempted murder, not guilty. I'm like, oh my God, you know, we made it. Aggravated assault, guilty. Aggravated assault, guilty. Simple assault, guilty. Simple assault, guilty. Down the freaking line of everything they hit me with. Everything else was guilty. Guilty's down the line. And I'm heartbroken. I can hear my wife crying. I hear my mother crying. I can't even turn around and face them. I'm just shocked. I'm just standing there like a statue. Like,
who wouldn't be?
My life's over. My life is over. I'm going down for stabbing people that I never touched. You know, and I'm like, how does this happen? And I'm instantly like calloused over. And I'm like, all right, motherfuckers, like, take me. You know what I mean? Like, and then the judge says, you know, sentencing will be in 2 weeks. And I'm like, what? Like, they didn't take me. So now I'm convicted and out. Free as a bird. Convicted of all this heinous shit. This is where everything really starts to get weird. Like, how this I mean, thank God I get to go home and spend the night with my family, but like, you know, how does this happen? What is this? Then the judge gets sick. I stayed out on the streets for 10 months, convicted of double attempted murder, double simple, double possession of an instrument of crime, all these misdemeanors. Like, I look like Jack the fucking Ripper on paper, and I'm out free as a bird for unsupervised in any way of any capacity for 10 months till the judge is finally healthy enough that I can be sentenced. Like, this is fucking crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Oh no, you know what I'm telling you? I think it was 3 days, 3 or 4 days, something like that, that the sentencing was going to take place. But they didn't take me that day. And then it turns into 10 months.
10 months. Okay.
So the 10 months goes by. I go before the judge again. I do all this crazy work. I fire my attorney because I realized watching the Moods attorney, I was like, that's an attorney. Like, my attorney was a stuttering mess. His name's Rich Giuliani. I don't mind to put him on blast. Like, he just wasn't good. Like, he skipped over things we did in preparation. Like, he left out huge details. I mean, they're literally describing me as wearing jeans and a black t-shirt. We got photographs date stamped of the thing. I'm wearing a bright orange Flyers t-shirt and shorts. But I mean, like, why aren't you bringing these things up?
So the 10 months was a little bit of a somewhat, you're looking for some sort of salvation by switching lawyers.
You know, so I'm going to switch lawyers. I actually hired Mahmoud's attorney, Lou Savino, best in the city. Comes off as a little bit of a scumbag, but it turned out that's the best thing you could be in Philly. I love that man. I owe him so much. But I hire him to do my sentencing. We work on all this mitigation shit. We're going through the ringer. We're trying to find loop. There's nothing, you know, I'm going away. All we can do at this point is mitigate as much time as possible. Show them my character, show them the depth of the person I am, you know, show them my previous criminal record, which was literally like an underage drinking charge when I was 20. At that point, there was nothing, you know. It's all we can then hope for. And this is where the judge, being a reasonable human being, actually comes into play. The prosecutors, along with the police, have come to the terms that they want 12 to 24 year sentences for the aggravated assaults. Both of them. So you're looking at minimum 24 years is what they're trying to bang me with. 24 years behind bars. And I'm out on the streets for 10 months now. We talked earlier about the depression and the anxiety and the alcohol use and things of that nature. That 10 months, I lost my mind, you know. The shit I was getting into just to try to stay alive. And I don't say this lightly. You know, suicidal thoughts is an incredibly real thing. It's not a cry for attention. You know, I mean, I take it very seriously with people, and you know, I was having all the thoughts. I mean, I wrote the notes. I wrote everything down. I bought life insurance and fucking, you know, did my will, you know, legally, like did all this shit. You know, I was prepared just to fucking.
Very glad you're still here, friend. And like, I also could say, like, being a human being and everybody listen to this, how could you not have those thoughts?
Yeah. You know, you're facing, you know, a possible fucking 24-year sentence on the minimum end of things is what they're going for. And you're like, you know, I'm 30, dude. Like, you know, fuck it. I'm hanging it up. Yeah. So going through all that, but I have to say, man, like, I don't say this lightly, like, I'm still here for my daughter. My daughter, I kept not doing it, and it's not going to sit here and lie to you and say I didn't try. I kept putting it off for like one more day with my daughter, Nora. You know, just I got to just give her as much time as I can give her. Because again, I didn't know it was going to be 10 months. It was always going to be sentenced in 2 weeks, you know, a perpetual cycle of having 2 weeks left for 10 months. So I was just, I'm going to give her another day. I'm going to give her another day. I'm going to give her another day. And the next thing I know, I'm like, all right, you know, I gotta stay alive for this kid. And then, you know, I was like, well, I'll probably get killed in jail anyway. So let's see what happens. Let's roll these dice. So I go and I get sentenced finally 10 months later. Judge comes through. I had a bunch of people speak on my behalf. My sister represented my family. Actually, Mad Joe, the singer of Wisdom in Chains, kind of was like my musical representation.
Good one.
Yeah, you know, he's a well-spoken dude. And you know, it's if you talk to Joe to this day, he feels like he did me dirty. Like he feels like he didn't do enough. And I remember
that just shows how big of a heart the guy has.
The guy has a huge heart, man.
Yeah.
You know, like he comes off as this angry dude in his music, and he's all heart. But
his name, Mad Joe, is a freaking lie. He's always smiling.
So, and I can say that, you know, he did plenty because I was calloused emotionally at this point and numbed on a million substances. I mean, I literally taking like Advance like they were fucking Skittles at this point, you know, trying to stave off like the craziness, like the anxiety and shit in my head. And I remember like feeling a lot of emotions when all these people were speaking on my behalf. You know, they brought up, I was a fireman for many years, you know, they're bringing up, you know, it's true, you know, like there's people walking this earth because I helped save their life. You know what I mean? Like they're bringing all this stuff up. They're bringing all this good stuff up. And it's as fucked up as a state as I am and emotionally and physically, like, they were, you know, they were speaking the goodness of my life. And that was sweet to hear. You know, even Jotham brought up, you know, all the charitable work I did via music, you know, the amount of benefits I put on, like, you know, you say I jumped in to do that benefit for you. Like that's what I did for anybody who needed. Your house burned down. You went to hardcore shows. I'm going to do a benefit show for you. Like, that's just what I did. It was just second nature to some way to help. So they bring all this stuff up. I'm still thinking I'm getting banged. You know, my lawyer's like insisting to me. He's like, dude, you're not going to do fucking 24 years. Like, relax. So sentencing comes down. I got a 2.5 to 5 year sentence for each charge. And the judge ran them together, meaning instead of having to do 5 years total, like a 5 to 10, I literally got
a combo,
served time on one, and they were placed together and they ran together. So I was able to do all the time, and he wrapped all the charges up into this one sentence. And then he did slam me on the back end a little bit with some huge tail of special probation, like 10 years of special probation to follow my sentence, which is pretty obscene in the grand scheme of special probation, but I get to that. So sentencing comes down again, rooms filled with sheriffs. They're in there with the chains. I'm like, here we go. You know, speaking of Wisdom and Chains, you know, hear Richie Crutch tell this story. Like, he's scared for me, and he's always like, oh, Ziggy was standing up there like a soldier. And I'm like, meanwhile, like, I might have looked like a soldier, dude, but I was shaking. You know what I mean? I was holding still. Yeah. Like, inside, I was like, they're coming for me, man. They're literally going to take me out of this place in chains. And then the judge hits me again. 2 weeks to surrender. 2 weeks to surrender. He gave me 2 weeks to get my affairs in order.
Well,
and I'm like, this judge, man, like, he basically said, like, somebody had to go down, but there's blood on everybody's hands. Like, nothing's right about this case. And I was like, oh, you got that right. You know what I mean? And I look at it the way I look at it now. I'm like, yeah, I see it. You know, the state had so much time and money wasted on it. You know, there's cops involved. There's cops' brothers.
The cops weren't going to let that go. The cops aren't letting that go.
They're not letting it go. And I get it now. And I'm like, okay, you know, but he really hit me with probably as little as he could hit me with, you know, and I see that now.
So yeah, 2 weeks to get everything in order.
2 weeks to get my life together. I partied my fucking dick off. I wasn't sober a second of it. And that's when my life really started to change. I surrendered 2 weeks later, you know, kiss my family goodbye. But I was emotional.
By the way, so when you say surrendered, you have to like where do you report to the court?
I reported back to the courthouse, the same courtroom.
Okay.
And they walked me out a back door of that courtroom, put me on an elevator in chains, but they did it really dignified. You know what I mean? Like, when I went and surrendered, you know, they waited to chain me till I was like away from my family. They waited till I was in the back room. You know, they really did. I was surprised at how they treated me, believe it or not. You know, which again made me very suspicious of like, how did this go from like the prosecution, like trying to put me away for, you know, these crazy times. And now they're like, I feel like even though I'm a convict at this point, like I'm getting the white glove treatment, you know, I'm like, this is crazy. So the story continues. So they put me away. I'll be honest, man, I was still fucked up, like on substances. when they put me away. Like it's a blur. Like they took me down to the belly of the courthouse. I remember there was a fight while I was down there.
In the courthouse?
Like, yeah, in the cells below the courthouse, there was a
Oh,
fight in the
geez.
cells.
Yeah.
And they put me on a van and took me back to CFCF, and where I was, 6 years prior, when I surrendered the first time. I was like, oh man, none of this changed. All this feels familiar. So at least I had a little, I knew what was going on. I was like, yeah, that's the shower there. Yeah, go get in there. You're gonna look up my butt.
So did they actually have a place to put you yet, or was there a vacancy?
So I was in the county jail.
Okay.
Going upstate.
Okay.
So I knew I was going to do a little time in the county jail. I didn't know how long. I knew that wasn't going to be that long because they don't like to keep state prisoners in county jail.
Gotcha.
Think about it. If a guy's going to state prison for life or for many, many years, he could wreak some fucking havoc in county jail.
Yeah.
So they don't like to keep those people. So I knew I was going to be on the next bus to Graterford State Pen, which is ironically in my backyard. I mean, like literally, like the lights are through this window. Yeah. So I grew up next to Graterford. About a week later, and again, I'm still fuzzy. I realize now it was detoxing.
Yeah.
I had been partying my fucking dick off for months, capped off with 2 weeks of just insanity. But I look at pictures of myself from those 2 weeks, of which there's plenty because everybody was snapping pictures with me. I mean, I encourage anyone to look in those pictures and look at my eyes. They were dead. There was nothing there. There's no life in those eyes. But it's funny as I'm in county jail and they're requesting me to go to detox, and I'm like, I'm not going to detox. Like, I'm not a fucking junkie. I thought detox was like for people on heroin and shit. Like, meanwhile, again, I'm eating Advance like Skittles, drinking my fucking face off and snorting lines like I'm a fucking rock star, and acting like a fucking jagaloon. I needed all that help and I took none of it. So I just suffered for a week in county jail, get sent to Graterford. Walking into the intake block of Graterford, which is E block, any old school guard or convict will tell you, everybody that gets convicted on the eastern side of the state has that experience prior to Graterford closing. Every inmate goes through E block. It's a wild fucking place. The best thing I can say is the scene from Shawshank.
Oh, so they're checking out the new jacks. Yeah.
Pretty fucking accurate, man.
Wow.
You walk on to what looks like this endless long block, double tier of each side, top, two floors. I think it's an 800 dude block.
Is it when you say it's like that movie? You're not the only one, right? There's
you're walking in with a line of fresh guys.
Okay.
And they march you in with your pillow, and everybody's hooting and hollering and whistling at you and fucking talking shit. Breaking your balls. And I don't care how tough you are. And I thought I was tough back then. I realize now I wasn't. Now I know what tough is, and I wasn't it at the time. But so I'm walking in, and I think I'm tough, and I'm still like, Jesus fucking Christ, this is terrifying. Mm-hmm. That big metal door slams behind you. You're just marched down to your cells. They stick you in this fucking concrete box with dudes you don't know. And you got nothing. At that point in your life, like your sole possessions are the underwear and socks that you're wearing, an orange jumpsuit, a pair of state issued boots, which are the most god awful, uncomfortable things you will ever put on your feet, and a toothbrush. That's what you have to your name. Because at this point, you don't have money on your books. You're not getting commissary. You're a couple weeks at best out from getting any kind of commissary or living good. So this is where guys really start to get fucked up in the mix in jail. When we get into jail, I'll talk to you about that.
Okay, can I freeze right where you're at and ask you? Like, you go in and you meet, I guess, your cellmate here, right?
Yep.
Is there a stare down? Is it some like guy that's like been there a while, like, hey, welcome, or is it like two pit bulls? Like
the good news about E block is, when you go up top like that to a place like E block, you're on an intake block. Everybody's new there.
Okay.
At best, you might have a few guys on the block that have been there for months, like months at best.
Okay.
So you're not getting up there like that. That celly shit gets more involved when you get put in your home jail, because you might get celled up with a dude that's been in that particular cell for years. So I get put in the cell. Actually, my first cell, he wasn't that bad. He was like a small, older white dude who I think was probably more scared of me than I was of him.
Mm-hmm.
But I was quickly moved out of that cell and put on a work detail. So I got switched to a different cell, and I had a really fucking horrible cellie at that point. But mind you, I'm still spun out of my mind. I'm adjusting to my surroundings. I'm in this crazy environment. Like Graterford was just a wild place. It's the middle of a fucking heat wave. It's summertime, no air conditioning. I'm 400 plus pounds at this point. I think I was 417 pounds when I got to Graterford. Down because I had been starving in county before that. So God knows how fat I was at my peak. I don't actually know. But so I'm like this heat wave. I'm detoxing. I'm experiencing basically great. I went wild in myself. I went nuts one night, detoxing and shit. But then I came out the other end of that a few days into Graterford, and I was like, yo, you gotta get your life together, dude. You're here. There's no going home at this point. There's no reset button.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a pact with myself that like I was not gonna do any kind of drugs or alcohol in jail, which there's plenty of. You could get your hands on it if you want it. So I wasn't gonna do any of that. And you got to get in shape, bro, because you're in the jungle. You're in the jungle, and you are not as tough as you thought you were. Like, yeah, okay, you might have been a guy in the hardcore scene who have been in some fist fights, but like you're in here with fucking gangsters, bro.
Yeah.
You gotta get your shit together. You gotta get your shit tight. So I adopted a mindset of I called it like respectfully assertive. I stayed respectful at all times. I held fucking doors. I used my fucking manners. I mind my business, but I stayed very assertive. Like I never let anybody get too close or step over the line with me. You know what I mean? But even when they step over the line with me, and people will check you, especially in those early days to see what you're made of. I never escalated a situation, but I always stood my ground. And I found that it worked really well for me. And it just kind of kept people at bay. There's easier targets. One thing I did learn about a lot of these gangsters in prison is they are afraid to take an L. So they're always looking for weak targets. If you just don't present yourself as a weak target, you're probably going to be all right. So that's what I did. So I just minded my business, respectfully assertive, and I start walking in the yard. That was all I could do. I was so out of shape that I just start walking in the yard, 3 yards a day at that point in E Block, morning, afternoon, and night when it was weather was all right. And I just walk in circles, and those god awful state boots, to the point where I'm not kidding you. This isn't good storytelling. My feet were swollen, turning black, bleeding. My toenails were falling off, and I just kept fucking walking because I knew that if I stopped too long in any one location, people were going to approach me, people were going to notice me, and people were going to realize how easy of a target I was at that point. So I just sheer necessity of needing to keep it moving and mind my own business kept me walking. And what it also did was walked off my first 30 pounds. Let's pause right there.
The walk-ins also, because like you said, you're trying to be respectful and also hold your ground. You're trying to also hold minimal conversations, right?
I am barely communicating with anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm keeping my conversations at a minimum. I'm avoiding just everything, all the drama, all the bullshit. And because I knew no matter where I am, I can't get too dug in with any BS going on, because you also know when you're in Graterford that there's a very slight chance you're going to stay there, because they pretty much just move you in. And then at that point in the prison system, and from what I understand, it's changed a little bit now, is you got shipped in from Graterford or Western, which is like Pittsburgh version of Graterford. And then you got shipped to Camp Hill right outside Harrisburg. Ironically, very close to where the championship venue used to be.
Yeah.
Like Lemoyne.
Yeah.
So I recognized like the drive-in. I was like, oh, I used to have a lot of fun out here. So I knew I was going to Camp Hill fairly soon after that. And then from Camp Hill, you know, I get sent to wherever I was going. So I just knew that like there was no real point in getting involved in anything where I was at that time.
So what's the daily routine?
So at that point, the routine is literally only I'm a block worker because some people, you know, like I said, I grew up near that prison. I knew some people, and then also had some help from the hardcore scene from a dude that used to be a prison guard. Got me a block worker job, so at least I had something to do to pass my time. Because at this point in E Block, like you have nothing. There's no TV, there's no programming, there's no school, there's no real work unless you're a block worker. So like your days consist of being locked in your cell until it's time to eat, go to the doctor, or go to yard. And the yard at this point is extremely minimal. You know, you got dudes doing push-ups off picnic tables, you got a walking track, and there was like a basketball court, but you are not getting anywhere near that fucking basketball court. You're not going to go play a fucking game of pig. I mean, that was some hardcore fucking basketball going on that I knew I had no business being involved in.
Gotcha.
So like I said, my routine at that point was like, I get popped out of my cell early to literally sweep the tier. And Gradeford was a crazy, nasty place, dude. Like they had glass windows on all the cell doors that were all punched out. People made like shivs out of them and stuff. So like dudes would just like hurl their trash out these holes every night. So like every day, the block workers would have to come out and just sweep up like massive piles of fucking trash, and you'd see huge rats and huge cockroaches, and it was wild. So I'd get up and I'd do the cleaning, you know, and clean the showers. One of the cool things was when you were a block worker, you clean the showers, you got to quick run in and use the showers. The Gradeford still had old school gang showers. So like it was pretty fucking awesome to be able to use the gang showers. You're still in there with like all the other block workers, but like you weren't in there with like 50 fucking dudes.
Yeah.
And one of the most fucked up things about, speaking of showers, like before I was a block worker on that block, one of the most fucked up things about those showers was they gave you the choice. You had this like block out time is when you could shower or use the phones. You could not do both. You didn't have enough time because you had to wait in these crazy lines to get on the phone. So you literally needed to choose between like scrubbing your ass in the middle of a heat wave in a room full of like 30 dudes fucking butt ass naked, or call your loved ones. Like it's a fucked up choice to make, you know, and it led to some really nasty people. So like the block worker job, probably the best thing about that was like being able to wash my ass in relative peace. That was sweet. So good looking out, Reese. Yeah, so that was my day. I'd pop out, do that in the morning, pop out for chow, pop out for a fucking yard, which would literally, like I said, just consisted of me walking until my feet bled. I was there for, I don't know, a month.
What time's like the final time you're locked up for the night before, like, you know?
9 p.m. is final lockdown.
Final lockdown. And then the morning, it's the morning 5:30, 6?
6, I believe Gradeford was.
Okay.
Maybe 7.
And
7.
here's a question. How is it like it is on, you see in the TV stuff? It's like the guards, were they reasonable people? Were they hard asses?
I want to answer that question, but let's get to my home jail before I answer that question, because that's where I had a lot of experience with the guards. So I'll fast forward. So leave Gradeford, go to Camp Hill. I'm in Camp Hill for 6 weeks. Camp Hill's wild because it's like the military. That's where they like indoctrinate you into being in prison. So Camp Hill is like completely different. Gradeford's wild, wide open, crazy shit going on. Camp Hill's the exact opposite. It's constant lockdown. You march in line. Like when you go to chow, like you walk in fucking single file line. When you go to showers, they didn't have gang showers there, but they had stalls. But you literally got the amount of stalls there were. You got let out in the order of the stalls. You got put in line. You're in your towel. You're butt naked. You had 2 minutes in the water. 2 minutes in the water. So you got wise really quick that you like wetted your wash rag in the sink and soaked up on the walk to get for the shower. So you're like soaked up with your wash rag everywhere, and you just basically ran in and rinsed and rolled out. 2-minute showers at Camp Hill. 5 minutes to eat. My family is disgusted by how fast I eat. I eat as fast as I do because you literally sit down at Camp Hill. You have 5 minutes to finish your food. So like, yeah, like this shit was crazy. There was a few days, we want to speak about guards, a few days at Camp Hill where my butt hit the table and the guards at Camp Hill would knock on your table when it was time to get up. My butt hit the table and a guard, I'm like, just right up. Because if you even like look at him funny in Camp Hill, you're getting written up. So you just shoving food in your face on the way to the trash line. And that's Camp Hill. So then they do this because they're classifying you while you're at Camp Hill. Because also while you're at Camp Hill, you take all these aptitude tests. You know, they figure out your education level. They figure out you're kind of where you're at mentally. You see strengths. You do all this stuff, and they use this to classify you as a prisoner. And this dictates like what kind of jobs you may do, where you're going to end up. It's pretty important shit, and a lot of guys don't take it seriously.
So it's kind of the basic training, and
it's basic training. It is. I always say that Camp Hill is very militaristic. I mean, they gave a shit. Like your fucking cell better be tidy. Like yeah, it was like my prison boot camp, if you will. So the one cool thing about Camp Hill though was my dad works in Lebanon, which ain't too far. So he actually was able to visit me pretty fucking regularly while I was at Camp Hill. So that was fucking sweet because there's vending machines in the visiting room. And I'm not that I didn't love seeing my father, but I was so goddamn hungry at this point that like eating out of those vending machines was like the greatest thing on earth. Like it was the only days you weren't like starving. But anyway, I digress. So I'm in Camp Hill for 6 weeks. I get classified. I actually got classified, not surprisingly, with a very minimal history and decent, you know, on all the testing and all that, a pretty low rank. You know, they classify you like 2R, 2, 3, 4, 4H, and they you know, right up to being locked up in the hole. So I got classified as 2 from the door, which was awesome because it opened up a lot of opportunities for me to work. 2 is kind of like middle of the road low. And to get that from the door is pretty unheard of. Like most people are just like, if they're not sure about you, you're a 3, like from the door. If you're even a little bit of an asshole, like you're a 4 from the door. So to be a 2 was a gift. I didn't know that at the time, but you know, as you learn how the system works, I was pretty thankful for that. So transfer day finally comes. They bust me out of my cell at like 3 a.m. Like you're going to your home jail. Like they don't even really warn you. And all I got was a brown paper bag with SMI written on it. And I'm asking, like all the other dudes getting popped out, you know, theirs has like different 3-letter words on it, and it all corresponds to what jail you're going to. So like HUD was Huntington, and you know, Western, you know, was West and shit like that. So we're all looking at our bags, and everybody's kind of figuring out where they're going. Oh, I'm going to Colhana, or I'm going to, you know, Rockview, or whatever it was. And I'm looking at SMI, and I'm like, the fuck's an SMI? Like, before, you know, I had all this time to get ready for prison, I asked all these people, like everybody I knew that had ever been to prison. Yeah, what was your prison like? What prison were you in? Tell me everything. You know, I need to be prepared.
Yeah.
Never heard of an SMI. Never knew. Finally, I get to like the bus area. I figure out I'm going to Smithfield. No one mentioned Smithfield to me in any of the jails like I surveyed out. I'm like, what the fuck does this mean? So I get there. We pull up to this huge fucking brick wall. It looks just like Graterford. And I'm like, if they were going to put me in a place like this, why couldn't they have kept me in Graterford where my family lived right down the road? You know, instead I'm 4 hours into the middle of the state. But then I realized that wasn't Smithfield. That was Huntington, which is a pretty hardcore fucking jail. So I was very thankful when the bus just pulled in there to like drop some property off and then kept driving. And around back to Huntington was Smithfield, which is still a level 5 jail, which is, you know, considered max. But nothing like old school. It's a newer jail. Actually, I think it was built in like the late 80s, which for Pennsylvania standards is a pretty new jail. So I was like, all right, well, at least this place is going to have like fucking air conditioning. That's pretty cool. You know, after Graterford, I grew to love air conditioning at Camp Hill. So I was like, that's fucking cool. So I pull up. 6 of us got off at that stop. We go through the whole processing, and this guard grabs me off the bus, and he's nice as shit. So nice to me. He's calling me sir. He's being really respectful. He like loosened up my cuffs.
Nice.
I'm like, well, this ain't Camp Hill. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you still got hardcore, strip searched and all that crap. At this point, I'm getting numb to all that. So they give you a regular prison uniform. We call it the Browns. In Camp Hill, you're in the blues, and Greaterford, you're in the orange. You know what I mean? They kind of dictate the levels. I'm finally in the Browns. And, every inmate that I had talked to that had done time to that point always told you that prison, I should say, gets a little easier once you get in Browns. So, I'm not going to lie. Like, I put this shit-ass brown uniform on, but I was like, I've been looking forward to this for, over 2 months at this point. Like, I'm really kind of happy to be in this fucking uniform because at least I know, like, I can start to get in a routine. I can start, like, digging into where I'm going to be. So I get transferred into Smithfield. They put me on H block. Come to find out that half of H block is a program block for this thing called therapeutic community, and the other half is just like a holding block. So I'm on the holding block side of it for a while, a couple weeks. And I got a pretty cool cellie, this dude Chris. We clicked pretty quickly. He's a Bucks County dude. He's actually in on some really crazy shit. He killed his cellie in county by accident. I mean, not by accident. I mean, he punched him in the head. The guy fell over backwards and hit his head and died.
Gotcha.
It was like tragic, but like
wasn't intentional.
He wasn't like trying to kill him.
Yeah.
So of course, when my wife found out that I was in there with a dude who killed his cellie, she was freaking out. And I'm like, actually, he's a pretty fucking cool guy. Like, we get along. He's wrong place, wrong time, which I was learning. Was basically my story. So Chris and I are pretty dug in. We're doing all right. Still don't have a job. Still don't have anything. A couple weeks are going by, but I'm starting to get some like commissary. So I'm getting some food. I bought a TV at that point, which was like a godsend.
I didn't know. So they actually allow you to have TVs, like
if you can afford it. And I'm going to tell you right now, when people, it drives me nuts when people are like, oh, those prisoners are living too easy in jail. They're in there just watching cable TV and living off our tax dollars. Fuck that. This TV, and I still have it. I'll never get rid of it, just to show people. It was a 13-inch clear plastic, like barely a computer monitor for like the most shit computer you've ever seen. And it cost $250, which in jail money is insanity. Because for an inmate that has no outside support, $250 is an insurmountable of money to make. Because the most you can hope to make at a jail job is 47 cents an hour.
So how did you get it? Did one of your family or someone pay for it? Like, or is that not allowed?
The glorious Pennsylvania hardcore scene and my family, but mostly the scene, had raised insane amounts of money for me. And they were filtering it in a little bit at a time on my books. So I was able to, buy sneakers, get out of those god awful state boots that, my feet were fucked. I had to go to like medical for months to get my feet fixed. Was able to buy sneakers. I was able to buy a TV. But to finish the TV thought, it's also $17 a month or $18 a month for cable. So they're not living for free. And it's like $18 a month. Again, when you make 47 cents an hour, these prisoners are not living comfortably off your tax dollars. Like, they're getting raped over the coals to have a TV if they're lucky enough to have one.
So that leads me to a comment and a question. Comment is, I was definitely at some of those shows that helped raise that, dude. Dude, those were, that it's one thing about our scene. We always go to bat for everybody,
Everybody, man.
If you're in. And two, you have a TV there, you got sneakers. I mean, are other prisoners like, yo, that TV, I'm taking it, or like, give it to me in front of the guards, or else, like.
I'm not going to say that stuff like that doesn't happen. I didn't experience it, and it's a little harder to happen than you would think. They carve your inmate number into everything. Like, it's uncontrollable. Like, you buy any property, they engrave it with your inmate number. So if your TV ends up in Joe Blow's cell, three cells down, you're both in trouble.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So, like,
and there's no one day like running. I mean, I guess it could, but like no one be like, yo, if I can't have this, no one can smash it or something.
Oh, shit like that happens. Yeah. Jealousy is a real thing. again, I kept a very low profile, and dudes are looking for easy targets, which I never presented myself as one. So while it's always a concern, there was no like active attempts on that for me. But
Good.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like when you walk around the yard with a brand new pair of sneakers, it definitely turns heads. You want to dirty them shits up a little bit pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know, but I didn't give a fuck because I couldn't walk another mile in them state boots. So those sneakers, I would have probably died for those sneakers. Like,
Gotcha.
I would have probably sooner sacrificed my TV than get rid of those sneakers.
So, like from all the TV shows we see with prison, is that like a lot of it truthful? Is it just as bad? Do you think it's just over exaggerated for entertainment's sake?
Yes and no, man.
Yeah.
So gangs are very real. Violence is very real. But prison is 100% what you make it. If you go in joining gangs, and look, I want to put a disclaimer out there that from what I've learned, networking and things like that since being out, every state is very different, very, very different. Like you might go to jail in California, to some of these crazy ass prisons they got out there, and it could be wildly different from what I experienced. And from what I understand, Pennsylvania it's a pretty okay place to get locked up as far as where you're going to get locked up at if you're going to get locked up. But we had all the gangs that you see on TV that you hear about. They were all in those prisons. It's all very real, and I'm not going to lie. Like, dude, I'm 6'3". I'm 300 some pounds at the time I got to Smithfield. Yeah, the white boys looked at me covered in tattoos and went, "Oh yeah, like this guy's coming in the fold." And I, of course, was like, "Yeah, no, like I ain't built like that, and you ain't built like that to make me." That was one thing that was a hill I was willing to die on, and always will. So, while approached by that, I obviously turned that shit down. And then, as far as the other ones are concerned, there's other white gangs in there that are like non-racist. They're white gangs in the sense that prison is a racial place no matter which way you divide it. But like, cliques of white dudes definitely exist that have nothing to do with like Nazi politics or ideals or anything like that. But I didn't want anything to do with any of that.
Mm-hmm.
My theory was always get in, get out. I need to get out on my minimum. You know what I mean? The way the sentencing works in Pennsylvania is you have to do at least your minimum, which is half your sentence. So in my case, 2.5 years to 5 years. If I was fucking around, 5 years becomes possible. You start committing crimes in jail and they start adding time. So you know what I mean? Like I was not about to add unnecessary amounts of time to my sentence. So to answer your question fully, all that shit is there. But how you involve yourself and how you carry yourself can give you a wildly different experience. So I made a lot of friends, dude. I'm a outgoing person. I always have been. People always say I make friends everywhere I go. Guess what? I made friends in prison. A lot of them were gangsters. A lot of them were in gangs. But just because they're in a gang doesn't mean I roll with them doing gang shit. So my thing was like everybody knew like, oh, Zig's trying to go home. Like, he's also not a bitch. He's in here on, some crazy aggravated assault charges, and he will throw hands if he needs to. So let's just find a fucking pedophile, and rob him. So I had that going for me.
Gotcha.
And, like as I dug into prison, there's not good people in prison, obviously, but there is some. There's a lot more bad than there is good, but there is some, and I found the ones that were good. So like, I worked out, some dudes that were like outlaw bikers. I worked out with dudes that were like Latin kings. It didn't fucking matter to me. Like, if just don't involve me in your bullshit, But yeah, like I saw dudes get stabbed. You know what I mean? I saw some wild ass fights. I seen shit that like I don't want to see or experience again. You know what I mean? And the worst part is you're terrified in the situation because you're like, I don't want to be involved in this, because the last thing you want to do, you might just be standing there when somebody gets stuck and the fucking gas comes rolling. I mean, I got maced once in prison for a fight that I had nothing to do with. I was just standing too close to it. and the guard just lit me up, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a bad place, but it's not, like I tell everybody, man, it's what you make of it. And like, that'll carry me to this, you know what I mean? Like, I got to jail. I had a plan. That plan was to get out on my minimum. So how am I going to do this? I got to get right. So I said I walked off my first 30 pounds. From there, I started working out hard and heavy and started, lifting weights, started running. I mean, I was running. It's funny, I could barely walk without being winded when I started. And pretty soon after getting to Smithfield, I'm running multiple miles every morning. I had made that conscious decision I mentioned back in Graterford where I was going to stay away from like the booze and the drugs, just seriously to get my wits about me. I had no real ambitions of like changing my life or anything at that point. It was just solely a survival mechanism. Like, I need to keep my head on a swivel in this dangerous place in the condition I'm in. So I'm sitting in the holding block of this H block, and a lot of times what happened is dudes would leave the other side, the other block, HA, which was the therapeutic community block. They'd leave that, they'd come over to HB where I was for a little bit, and then go to their blocks, where I'm just sitting on HB for no good reason at this point. And because these guys are coming off therapeutic community, which is like, drug and alcohol and other things, they ran like AA and NA meetings on the block. And it's actually this like flamboyantly gay dude named Matt was like, which is off-putting in prison because, you see all the movies and shit. Just like bangs on my cell, like my first day there, like on HB. And he's like, do you want to go to the AA meeting? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you at my cell? And he's like, no, we have like AA meetings down in the TV room on the block, if you want to attend. And I was like, not really. He's like, well, if nothing else, dude, to get you out of your cell for an hour. And I was like, oh, yeah. Like at this point, I just been in that box. Like I was in the bus, then locked in this box. At this point, I'm like, yeah, I went out of my cell for an hour. So I went to an AA meeting, and no good reason other than to get out of my cell. And I did that because I had the opportunity to do that like once or twice a day for the few weeks I was on HB. Didn't know that was kind of setting the course for what would happen while I was in jail. But because I was participating in these meetings and the drug and alcohol treatment staff could see that, they actually decided that it would just be easier. And, and I'd been a pretty compliant inmate, and I was like that low risk score.
Yeah.
They just decided like, oh, he's I'm a barber by trade. So they decided, let's just move this dude over to the program, get his programs out of the way, because I had to take therapeutic community as part of my sentencing because I, admitted to being drunk when all this happened. So I'm in going to get sent to the therapeutic community block. So they moved me over there early, which was awesome. Turned out to be for the sole reason of getting me in the barbershop sooner. So the therapeutic community program was slightly over 2 months. So I knew I was going to be 2 months in this program, and that's like your job. That's all you do. So they moved me over into the therapeutic community block. I'm going to knock my programming out again. I am doing all this for the wrong reasons. I knew therapeutic community had to do it to get parole. So I knew I wanted to do a good job because I wanted to look good for parole. But, I was just on a singular mindset of just like, get all this stupid programming done, move on, get in the barbershop. No one's going to mess with me if I'm in the barbershop because everybody wants to be nice to the barber. You know what I mean? So I was like, it'll just be great. I'll just be in the barbershop cutting hair like I do on the streets. And I'm just going to be slightly uncomfortable for a few years. It'll be what it is. So I'm in this therapeutic community. Meet a couple cool guys while I'm in there. Just working out, doing the program. And I'm in the program for a while. And a couple of the inmates that worked for the program approached me, and they're like, you need to work in this program. And I'm like, the fuck I do. Like, nah. And I'm like, dude, don't be fucking stupid. Like, this is the bid. This is how you do time. And I was like, no, it seems like being a fucking professional rat. And, I'm not trying to be like that, in here. That seems stupid to me. Like, dude, it's not like that. It's what you make of it. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, but I'm not doing it. So I get called into a meeting with the DAT staff, the drug and alcohol treatment specialists. They call them the DATs. So I get called into a meeting with the DAT staff. they're like, listen, you're coming up on graduating the program. You know, we've enjoyed having you in here. You know, but I was, you know, I'd participate in class because I'm trying to look great. You know what I mean? I'm trying to like get a good review for parole. And I'll be honest, at this point, I was really starting to lean towards, and I got some pretty serious drug and alcohol issues. You know, that definitely spiraled out of control the last few years. Like, you know, and I'm getting a clearer head now because I'm a few months clean at this point. You know, my mind's starting to defog a bit. I'm like, man, yeah. Had to think
So
clear.
you're basically saying you didn't realize you were already taking your first steps of getting
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man. So right around the same time that the dad staff approached me about working in the program, I actually raised my hand at an AA meeting and called myself an alcoholic for the first time. And kind of had like an epiphany moment of like, fuck, man, like I am an alcoholic. And, you know, winding back to, you know, Barlow and Animalhaus, you know, Barlow was just one of many friends, you know, I lost to the bullshit, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, like I don't want that for my kids. Like I didn't blow my freaking head off last year. I'm in prison, you know. What am I going to do? Get out of prison and just kill myself slowly that way? Like I got to knock this shit off. So I started taking recovery kind of seriously, and that inevitably led me to accepting the job, you know, at the treatment program. Now I'm not going to lie, it did. Again, I wasn't always doing things for the right reason at first.
Yeah.
So they told me that when you're a senior level like person in the program, you get your own cell, meaning no cellie.
Oof.
And I was like, whoa, that sounds pretty fucking good. And then they also dropped on me, not one of their employees has ever not made parole. And I was like, oh.
All in.
I'm in.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it changed my life for the better. I got to spend, at this point, I had been locked up for about 6 months, I think, when I accepted that job. And I had a 2.5 year to 5 year sentence. So I got to spend 2 years in jail helping the next guy. And, jail fucking sucks. But if you're going to be in it, having even a little bit of purpose can really get you through some fucking dark days. And I didn't make a huge dent or impact, but I definitely helped a few guys. And it made it seem a hell of a lot more worth it. You know what I mean? Even down to like, just a quick side story. Like I remember like dealing with this one young kid, they called him Rock. He was a drug dealer. He's from Philly. It's young as shit. I think he was like 19 or 20 years old, doing fucking a couple years for like dealing drugs. And he's like telling me, he's like, Joe, I can't make money any other way, Zig. Like, what do you want me to do? This is all I know. And I like broke down with math, like on a whiteboard. We were in like the classroom of the program setting. I was like, bro, like how much money do you actually fucking make being a drug dealer? Like when all is said and done. And like, I basically broke it down for him like in math. I was like, you make minimum fucking wage, dude. And that's not even factoring in that like you are in jail now making $0 an hour. Like,
yeah.
Like you probably are in the negative, dude. And like, I was like, I'm a barber, I get paid in cash every day. Like you could do this. Like you could literally do it. And I remember like his like mind was like blown because he's sitting there looking at the numbers like, this fucking dude is telling me the truth. Like, yeah, bro, it don't lie. So like I got to do some cool shit like that. I got one kid that quit the Nazi gang. I was really happy about that.
Hell yeah, dude. So you actually did you did the 2.5 or did you do 2 out of that?
I did 2.5.
Okay. Not because that was minimum. You had to do that.
Had to do 2.5. So but I got to spend 2 of those, working as what we call it, like a peer assistant.
Yeah.
That was my title. I just got to work with dudes that were trying to get clean or trying to, just write their life. I was helping dudes with money management, figuring out things like, like, dude, here's a sad story. Like I had this dude, he was my homie, dude. He was one of my top dudes in there. Like he was getting out off a long stretch of 10 plus years, and he had done a bunch of short stretches, not short, but like not 10 years prior to that. So he had basically been locked up like his whole adult life. And like the day before he got out, he like sat down and he's like, Ziegler, I gotta talk to you, man. I'm like, what's up, dude? He's like, my mind's racing. Like, I gotta know things. And he busts out this notebook paper. He's like, don't make fun of me. And I'm like, bro, I'm not gonna make fun of you. You're a fucking gangster. Like, you know what I mean? He's like, yo, all right, first up, what's Wi-Fi? What's fucking Wi-Fi? This dude never lived in a world that had Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, like, he's like, is it just in the sky? Can I just access it?
Now, it makes sense though. Like that's all he knows is that, you know. So
dude. Yeah, and he has TV, so he has he's aware of these things.
Yeah,
he doesn't know how they work. You know what I mean? Like, and here's a 40-plus-year-old dude re-entering society, knowing nothing. So you know what? If I can write him down some notes of what to expect and how the world works, like helping him transition.
This right. So this is right before you got out too.
No, this was right before he got out. I'm just saying, like.
So
helping dudes with shit like just stupid shit like that, like just getting ready to be in the real world. You know, it's wild.
So you were working out while you were in there. You lost weight, and then you were helping people, and you found the best purpose you could to get through. What was it like when you know here it is? I'm about to get out.
Getting out's tough, man. Even I know I only did a short speck of time in the grand scheme of things. Like it's fucking crazy. Your mind is wild, and the process of it's wild. So they parole you, and the parole was very difficult for me because by this point I'm living super clean. I'm trying to live super honest. I'm trying to really do this recovery thing. And the problem was the honesty. You know, I to make parole, I was going to have to go in to my parole interview and own remorse for my crimes. Here's the fucking caveat. How do I fucking have remorse for stabbing people that I never fucking stabbed?
Yeah.
You know, I was like, and I can like fake, like I do have remorse for being in the situation. I have remorse for being drunk. I have remorse for fighting the dudes that I fought. I have a lot of regret and remorse for that night.
Yeah.
Shit that I own now fully. Like I'm not a full-on victim in this. Like I did a lot to put myself in the place and allow the dominoes to fall. You know what I mean? And I want to be super clear about that. I will not sit here and act like I am a fucking total innocent victim.
Yeah.
Did a lot of dumb shit that day.
Yeah.
But how do I go before the camera and be like, yeah, I fucking stuck these dudes, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it was going to be tough, and I wasn't going to do it. You know, I swore to myself. You know, I sang in this band Objection right before I went to upstate, and I even wrote a song about it. Like, there's literally a lyric in the song, like, I won't ever admit to what I didn't do. Fuck you. That's the lyric, you know? And I'm like, I'm not going to do it. And by this point, I was working a program. I had a sponsor, and my sponsor is actually the gangster dude who didn't know what Wi-Fi was. And he's like, you're a fucking idiot. You have a child and a wife and a family that loves you and friends that are sending you money and writing you letters galore. People want you on the streets. Suck up your fucking pride. Go before that camera. Put on your best Oscar-winning fucking performance and go the fuck home to your family. And it sucked, but I did it. And he was right. It was the right thing to do. Like dying for pride.
Yeah.
I ain't going to say shit. Nah, dude, I went in there. I was like, yep, did it. Totally. Owned everything. Regret everything. I mean, I even made up. They asked me where I found it, or if I had the knife on me. I was like, no, I found it in the parking lot during the fight. I picked it up and used it. Because I couldn't even fathom like saying I had the knife. Because I was like, how does it make sense that I had the knife? I was in the hockey game where we have to go through metal detectors.
Yeah.
You know, stupid shit like that never came up in court. You know.
Yeah.
So I did that. I get out. But here's the thing: you don't just get out. That's like months before you get out. You do your parole interview. Then they decide if you're going to get out. Then you get what's called a green sheet. You get the green sheet. There's still months from when you know you're getting out.
So they actually tell you the date, or they just come knock on one day?
Nope, they tell you the date.
Okay.
And the problem is, when that news gets out, you are as vulnerable as you will ever be in jail.
Because someone might try to do something to keep you on the hook?
You want to talk about the jealousy?
Yeah.
There's nobody more jealous than the dude that knows you're going home. And they know they got you over a barrel because you can't fight. You can't do anything that would get you.
Now, out of curiosity, is that just something everybody knows, or is that like something you really could keep secret? And
hard to keep it secret because they do their best to keep it secret. But there's these like call out logs, and like literally it'll say in the morning like, Ziegler MN8818 report to parole, and they know that you went to your meeting, a month prior to that, so they know that this is like your verdict day.
Yeah.
And then like the
there's no way of really hiding it.
No, because then like other notices start coming, like report to this counselor, report to that counselor, and all that means is like you're going through the steps of getting out. Report to the dentist, report to the doctor. Like it doesn't take the fucking rocket scientist to figure out that these are the steps that mean
that's
home.
got to be total pins and needles. So it's like somebody.
Luckily, I had dug in to the point where, and I had helped enough people in dangerous places that like there was a lot of people looking out to make sure I was going home.
Yeah.
I helped some gangster dudes write fucking parole letters, all sorts of shit. Like a lot of dudes knew that, like, they wanted me to go home. There more people were rooting for me than weren't.
Yeah.
So like I had that going for me. But that's still, it's pins and needles. So months leading up to that, you're worried about everything. You're worried about making your home plan. Your house might not be approved by parole. You have this, I have this loving house with my wife and my children, but maybe, I had German Shepherds. Well, if my parole agent decides that he doesn't want to deal with me living in a house with German Shepherds, then I'm not getting to go to that house. So now I got to find an apartment that's going to rent an apartment to a guy, a felon out on parole.
Yeah.
It is difficult to get out. It's not just as simple as going home.
Yeah.
So luckily, everything worked out. My house was approved even with the German Shepherds and, all that. I had to come out. I had to do fucking drug screenings and piss tests. And
I remember, dude. Like I remember there was, some people took pictures with you while they went to visit you and stuff, and like we saw your weight gone and all that, and I was like, that's a totally different guy. That's awesome. I remember I was writing new letters and stuff. I was like, dude, you better be doing a lot of push-ups in there.
I remember that. You're like, John Gotti did 1,000 push-ups a day or some shit you said to me.
Yeah, I did. He did. So Mike, it's not like you don't have the downtime to try. I never did 1,000 push-ups.
So, on that
but
topic,
but then like I remember like I hit up Richie Crutch. I hit up a few people. I'm like, is there a big freaking shindig going down tonight, or is he gonna just want to be with his family? And they're like, nobody knows, man. I'm like, I'm on standby. I'm on standby. And
I think I disappointed a lot of people when I got out. That like
I completely understood though if it was one or the other. Like everybody get over here versus I also get why, like, you just want a night with your wife and your kids.
Oh, shit. Hey, I wanted a night with my wife.
Yeah,
Jesus.
2.5
years.
Yeah.
But no, like, I don't think, when I say I disappointed a lot of people, I think, I was such the partier.
Yeah.
I think everybody expected like a blowout.
Yeah.
And, I had committed to no drugs and no drinking at that point. I had committed to the super healthy lifestyle. And then, dude, I was under lock and key my first few weeks out. My parole agent was a hard ass. So, like, there was no, like, going anywhere or doing anything for months when I first got out. So, like, the shindig that I think everybody expected to happen was certainly not going to happen.
And
then the weight loss thing, I lost 170 pounds.
That's good. That's leaving your old life bebehind, man.
Yeah, that's like a human. Put some of that back on since food out here is a lot better. But I started doing CrossFit in prison.
Yeah, we see it daily.
You see, I know I'm a cult member, dude. I post that shit all the time.
Yeah.
Do CrossFit and strongman now, but
no, that was good, dude. I remember you put out that post out about like, hey, I'm continuing my sobriety, all that stuff. I'd be like, you stuck to it, dude. You went through it. You went through something that a lot of us, because I mean, including myself, we've all either the fight was justified, or maybe it was just we were getting rowdy, and we aren't really the good guys, but we never thought one of us would go down, because we know a lot of other people in this scene to have done
way worse.
We won't get into that, but it's like awful, and you're like, now they're going down. Now they're out. No, it never happened. They never went down. Yep. So I remember like we were all floored. Like eventually, I was like, him. It's like he's him out of all people.
Yep. Nah, I don't know where people lie with this, but like I have accepted shit happens for a reason, man. you know, I thought I was tough. Life showed me what tough was. You know, I thought I was caring. Life showed me what real compassion is. You know, I thought I understood how the world worked, and I had little street knowledge. You know, shit, I got a lot of that now. You know, like shit happens for a reason, man. You know, I met a guy in there. It was my celly for a while. That actually grew up in the town that I grew up in, and we didn't know each other at all. He was a little older than me, and we didn't even like acknowledge that we were from the same place at first, because you don't tell people a lot about yourself when you first meet them. And you know, we ended up getting really into fitness while we were in there. Well, he was already into fitness, but he ended up like getting me like into fitness while we were up there. And we ended up starting like a CrossFit program in prison while we were in there, and then now me and him both coach a recovery CrossFit program on the outside in the streets. Like we're still good friends. Like I literally just saw him a few hours ago. Like we were coaching people. We coach other like addicts and alcoholics, you know, in CrossFit, you know, and use it as a method of recovery to replace that addiction with, you know, physical activity.
So that shows your character, that you didn't like, I just went in, did my time, got out. I'm never looking back. Like yeah, you showed like, yeah, you know, you showed true character.
That's strength. If I came out bitter.
Yeah.
If I came out bitter, ready to fight the world, I'm the fucking victim. It might have seemed strong, like, you know, I got hard in prison. Dude, that's not hard, man. Like being hard is like taking the fucking hit and getting up, dusting off, and then being like, yeah, I took the hit and I'm not mad about it. You know what I mean? Like, how do I get better that I dodge the hit next time? You know what I mean? How do I never get in a situation where I'm gonna get hit at all? You know?
Yeah.
That's being hard. You know? That's and I pray, man. Like, you know, I see like young hardcore kids like wilding out just like we did when we were younger, and I'm like, oh God, please don't like ruin your whole life getting in a fucking fight over like internet beef or some stupid shit like that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, dude, to me, it's a change scene. It's not.
It is definitely not what we grew up in.
It definitely changed. Like, you know, like, like put it this way, I actually park close to the venue now. I was always like, stay 4 or 5 blocks away.
Yeah,
you don't want to get boxed in. No, I'm like, I'm fine. You can park wherever you want. But
here's an outside story for you on that topic. The first big show I went to after I got out, I think, was Keystone Jam.
Yeah.
And like, I remember like a bunch of the opening bands were like really fucking good. I never heard of any of them. But I remember I was having a conversation. It honestly might have been with Joe Hardcore. I don't know. It was somebody like that. But I was like, he's like, yeah, it was him. Because he was like, yo, what do you think of this band? I was like, yo, they're good. But when did every kid become 90 fucking pounds? Like every kid in all the opening bands were the same kid. They were all like a fucking $120 soaking wet, like singing this hard ass music. They were all really good. But I was like, where all the big guys go? It's definitely a change scene.
Yeah, and I remember, dude, like I doesn't make up for it, but everything you've ever done for, you know, me with the, you know, the Pennsylvania hardcore doc and stuff, and the McGill trip. I just remember like when we did that show for you, was it the Polish Club? Like I blew up the poster for you.
Yeah.
You know, and I went and handed that to you. You know,
dude. Honestly, Lauren, it's right here on my wall.
Awesome. Yeah. I was like, at least I could freaking do. You know.
Can you see it?
Yeah. Look at that.
There you go. It's hanging in my living room.
Yeah. And mine's hanging right above here, but it's a very heavy frame. That's what I don't want to mess with right now. But yeah. Anything else? I mean, dude, we really covered all that. Everything we've talked about previously. Is there anything you want to say about that ride? Anything else you want to?
I just hope that everybody.
Thank you for sharing this with me. You know.
I truly want to only share the story when it can be used for positive, and like I hope just people, because it sucks, man. Like a lot of people got hurt. Like I'm not even mad at the victims for like pointing the finger at the wrong people and shit like anymore. Like yeah, like it is what it is, man. Like they're obviously twisted up in their own lives, but it's like take from the story just whatever you need to take, whether it's like changing your lifestyle, changing, you know, your habits, if it's drinking and drugging, or changing just like mind your P's and Q's. Listen, we all live in a world where shit is going to go down. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like this is going to happen. So even if you find yourself in an unavoidable situation where you might get in trouble with the law, handle that shit right. You know, like, lawyer up with the right lawyer. You know, don't trust that the system's going to always play out in your favor. You know, don't be naive to this stuff. You got to fight tooth and nail for everything owed to you in the legal system. Like, when you get put in the justice system in any capacity, you are property at that point, and you need to fight to be free again. Like, you cannot trust that anybody at any level, including your own defense attorney, has your best interests at mind, because they don't. Like, it's up to you to fight that. And, like, if nothing else, take that from the story.
Sweet. And music wise, what we're working on now?
A little something new in the pipeline, actually. Don't even have a name yet, but it's some of the dudes from Doing Great, and some people we pulled out of the woodwork from way back in the day. So we'll have some new tunes dropping pretty soon. Doing Great's on a little hiatus. I believe, for the moment. We got some guys working through some pretty tough life issues, so we're wishing them the best and all that. And then yeah, I don't know, man. I'll be. I'm never not going to play music. So
oh, that's you,
I'm
dude.
going to play with whoever. Who needs a fucking singer or a bass player? I'll be
there. Any plugs you want to drop before we go off?
Man, there's shit going on. I mean, this couple weeks is the I don't know when this episode's going to drop, but obviously
next few weeks.
Winter Jam's coming up on the 11th. I'm really hoping I can make it. I got some. I have a like seminar that weekend. For the coaching I do.
So, that would be at Club Reverb.
Club Reverb, the best place on earth, owned by the one and only Chris Mahmood of this story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well,
just make good choices.
Sweet. Well, Zig, I thank you so much for being on Average Superstar TV and sharing this awesome story. Thank you to the audience for checking out Average Superstar TV. Check it out on Spotify and YouTube and iTunes, and like us on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe, and we'll see you all next round.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.